wonder if I'm in the frame. Am I in the frame? I feel like...
Yeah, for sure. Go check.
I think I am.
Do you want to test it?
I'm pretty sure I am. So we had our third home visit from our social worker for our home study, and it went really well. I think so. Yeah. It was way more relaxed. I think for myself, I'm definitely more relaxed with her. And yeah, you too?
Fine. I think I'm still comfortable with her, whereas you were very nervous the first time, and now you're much more relaxed.
Well, and to like kind of tell you a little bit why I was nervous of her is because when I was younger, I was in some group homes, and I think like, I just like always remember feeling that like my social worker was a bad person, like she could take me out of my home, or he, and like, yeah, it, not even necessarily like a bad person. It was just like when you seen your social worker coming, you knew that there was change. And so I think
it was outside of your control.
Yeah, it was outside of my control. And I think so like bringing a social worker into our home when we've tried so hard, like with our parenting, to just like do the best that we can so that social services never have to get involved, I guess. Like, having a social worker come to your home is a big deal even if it is for something that's good, like adopting.
But now you're a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm a lot more comfortable with it now. Home study social worker is really there to like help you with the process, and that they're not there to do anything else other than guide you through this part in your life. And so
I know we got a good chuckle because she basically like asked me one question, like, "Oh, your parents, are they still married?" Okay, it was just like one line, and then so Destiny, and then she wrote like 5.5 pages asking Destiny some various questions and things, but it was good. I think the fact that we're just like open and honest with her, goes a long way towards building that trust between us, from us and from her towards each other. So that was good. Yeah,
we have nothing to hide too, so just be like open and honest about everything that's happened. And yeah, so this visit too, she just asked him like 1 or 2 questions, and then his like paragraph was like finished, or like it wasn't even a paragraph, and then she asked me about my parents. And so my mom was a single mom most of my life, and then my father, I never met him. And so, but we live in Prince Edward Island, so like not meeting your father on Prince Edward Island, like we live on a very tiny island, it comes up. I actually have 2 biological sisters that grew up on the island as well, and so we talked this with our social worker, and that's why I'm explaining it now. So like, for a child to have a birth father living on the island, it can be a traumatic experience, which for me as a kid it was. And so I had to talk to her about just my birth father and how has that affected me growing up now. And like, I feel like now that I'm in my 30s, like I feel like I'm totally able to like talk about my experience with my birth father, even though I had never met him. I actually like met my biological sister from him. I met her once or twice, I met her and we talked, and it was a great visit, but we don't really have a relationship now, which is okay. But like a few years ago, that would have been like still something that was like really hard for me to talk about. So I got through all of her questions of like, and like she's like taking notes like 4 pages. Every time she turns a page, I just had to laugh and be like, she's turning another page and Michelle has like a line.
I think overall, like the purpose, kind of she reiterated it like 2 or 3 times, is just like when you're parenting, even if you have like a conscious thought in your mind to not parent how you were parented by your parents, if the situation gets stressful or difficult, kind of the default is to go back to parenting how you were parented. And so she just kind of wanted to try to establish kind of a baseline of of where we were, where specifically Destiny was in terms of like how she was parented and how she has been as a parent, because as well Destiny's been a parent for about half of her life now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy to think about. Yeah. So I was a mom at 15. Our oldest son is now 16. You can do the math. So yeah, he was a great blessing to me, but not many 15-year-olds are ready to be a parent. And so we talked about that in this session with her, about how I went through parenting him and how I found out I was pregnant and I was determined to be the best mom I could be for that child. And so I nursed him and I went to parenting classes and I did whatever I could to be the best parent I could be. And I had to move out with him on my own at 17. And so just like talking about that and how I like made that work. And even though I had a baby at 15, I was still the best mom I could be to him. And I still am to our three children, 4 children all in total.
One of the things too that I wanted to bring up from this last visit that she mentioned was that there's only 3 social workers in their office right now, which kind of explains why it takes so long for them to get through the files and why like we were waiting so long, because they definitely have way more workload than they do people to do the work. She said even like 5 or 10 years ago there was more than double that amount, and she also mentioned that she was on call, so she needed to keep the cell phone on in case anything came up. And so we definitely feel like there's a need there for more for more resources to be allocated, and that's something that we feel like we'll probably bring up with our MLA and be able to kind of see if there can't be more resources allocated to that. Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned was how they used to do it was they used to have like the first part of the home study would be like an intake process where they would kind of assess whether yes they were going to proceed, or maybe adoption from the foster care system wasn't, maybe the timing wasn't right for the family. And then she also said there was another third option. Maybe it was like that it wasn't right, it wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes, and where there might be, different things that the family could work on, including like, I don't know, maybe therapy or something. I forget. I can't remember exactly what she said. Yeah, I think
she said like whether or not they should go into therapy and just kind of work through
counseling or something.
Yeah.
And then she said, so before it would have been like that intake process could have been done, and then you could have been able to go and start the training sessions while the home study was still being carried out. And so it's kind of unclear, I guess, if that would still happen with the new approach that they've taken. But one of the things that she did mention was that in some other jurisdictions they have this what's called the PRIDE training, PRIDE, so it stands for Parent Resources for Information, Development and Education. And what it sounds like is that you kind of, as you come into the first phases of wanting to apply, then you would go into this training right from the start. And so it covers a lot of the questions, or it sounds like at least that it would cover a lot of the questions that we've had and kind of give people a better understanding. And she said sometimes it would allow people to kind of, I guess, self-assess themselves a little bit further and kind of, decide whether to commit to it further or to kind of back away from it at a much earlier stage. So kind of like when we put in our first application, then you would be invited to that kind of training. And so for us as well, she said that there's training that we would need to take once we were assessed as being able to move forward, and it's not given very often here on PEI. She said maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, and so she told us that the next training isn't until the fall
of 2019 of this year. So.
Yeah, 2019. So so we're in May right now, and that I feel like that's like a little bit discouraging for me. I just feel like if there's such a need, why isn't all of these things done at a faster pace? But then going back to there's only 3 social workers, like I completely understand it's just really sad that there's kids in the system waiting for these homes, and that there's not the manpower to turn things around for them way quicker.
And two, we don't even know, like, again, we're in the process, so it could come to the end and they could say, well, actually, you're not it's like your home isn't suitable at this time or whatever. We might not be accepted to adopt from the foster care system. So we'll just see how it goes. But anyway, we just wanted to give you this update on how our third visit went with our social worker, and we'll keep you posted as things move forward.
And just like one more thing too, that just going through all of this, what I kind of didn't really expect was, but people had told me, was just how like draining you felt, like just kind of reliving and explaining like a lot of stuff that happened in your past. So I think that was just like I had to lay down and watch a movie with the kids like the rest of the afternoon, because it was like exhausting to go through that. And even though things were fine for me, like there was only like probably one time where I just kind of like got a little teary-eyed, but like I was really confident in telling her, because I knew that was going to happen. I knew that she would need to talk to me, and I felt like I was ready. But it was just like afterwards, like I was like, I just really feel tired. So I just feel like even if you're over the stuff that you've overcome, it's still difficult for you to talk about. It's still emotionally draining to get through that. But yeah, so our third one is done. Hopefully in 2 weeks we'll come back with smiling faces and say the fourth one went really great. Yeah, so stay tuned. Thanks for following us. Bye.
Bye.